Saying yes to Zeus, cast of a 5th century BCE bronze statue. Tall Zeus, forgive the mean aspect of this standard and static depiction your admirers should find problematic. Squared off toenails, small ears, some parts one shan't mention, for you hold the lightning bolt, but you don't. Even that is gone from this bronze copy. All-seeing Zeus, overlook how we come close. Your frown, your sinews, your ankles resemble the elderly athlete the museum claims this figure might be. You love mortality. Dear Zeus, our clouded heads forgot. The copy and the copier, sportsman, model, statue, maker, are your originals. Through you we move. Through us you move. Lord of lightning, spinal fire that sexes the brain in nuclear waste, a great many feathers puncture my breast from within as I rip, ridding myself of them, finding I cannot free myself. They vault outwards. Like everything, I am in your grasp, and also flying. It strikes me, you are sometimes kind. After a hymn to Aphrodite, 1. That voice revises several languages. Look at the moon, my love. That sounds absurd. Ecco la luna. Translators want to stay at home. Light sifting down like talcum powder. Don't we think of light and warmth together? Cold rock carries no weight, no. Interstellar space cannot impress us, to my knowledge. And if we put our skates on, though unplanned, each ecstasy's, each hesitation's trace does cut some ice, in sharpened progress curved again by lines on whiteness. Then skies melt, et la lune descend. Translators tack an extra room onto the roof, a lungful of asbestos, their reward. 2 lion-colored sentences wrote themselves in my mind at one of those highly ceremonial times when so much is involuntary, although everything should be willed, that you find yourself hoping not to have spoken. The thought of them makes me forget how much a line can take, forlorn within repeating borders. They did not scan at all, these sentences. I cannot place them, as if there were some empress whose perhaps greatest desire was to raise a pillar in sands outside her empire, where it is believed no city could be buried or built. Put the girls in florals. Eastertide, these trees are showing off their reproductive organs, mostly like a froth and creamy dazzle, all over themselves, unstoppable. How confusing. Should someone take a swing at the flowering branches or lop them dead, perhaps on city orders? That is and isn't understandable, but they won't have it as a reason that these days, these trees are showing off their reproductive organs, displaying airy brilliance, share of fruit. Strollers who designed a track of recollections, this side the river, that the concrete flats, sense fragrance, catch themselves rerouted, something dancing, a heart. I can imagine you blossoming with anger against yourself, face set against impatience. Your love is boundless, not your energy. It is given that you share this spring, the raindrop effect and warmth, another dazzle. I say it rarely is like that. I don't know whether to do one about nuclear holocaust now, or something else. As I have a suspicion we might be doing a nuclear holocaust within the next 5 years, maybe I'll do something else. I've been doing a project of expanded translation, which began with Zoe Scolding's expanded translation, AHRC-funded things at Bangor, and it turned into an interdreaming collaboration, which at first was discussed with Zoe and Vincent Brocard from the Université de Paris 8, and also Chris McCabe. As Chris and I were the only two who didn't have to think about ref targets, we ended up being the ones continuing to interdream. So these are my halves from some of the April interdreamings. In the beginning was death before spring, filched the menus from Chris's letterbox, plated a beautiful corpse, posted a samizdat potato bouquet to Timothée. Was death before comrades riding the chronic tuberose, foam of surfactant hedges in their star-softening bully ship. Death before spring. Y en français et Y. Beginning was death. Now they'll be the death of the letterbox. According to spring, face-to-face peers of the iron-on badges harden, doxed speech, unanimous laughter, sweet hiss, parched cush grass. Lydia's tiger worms cohabit in relative silence, nibbing, narrowing, rubbing, coalescing, vermilion, asemic, blurt, syntax of worm bodies, sometimes lone, cohabit in peelings, tiger worms, unsleeping, lone pioneers of the inner lid, metal forays, disc inversions, siege perilous, liquid wormettes of hopes and tappings, kitchen digested to garden, horsemen redressed in a kilim, worms undreamt audience dispensing, endless blue sky, endless lavender, Iraqi figurative, endless peace of birds. If ever I moved to London, it would be for the Thames, not for you, or a job. Sweet, filthy, historical, oculus. Light arrives as the daytime allowance expires. Night arrives like the deity dreamers require. If, whose angel sucks fire lozenges in the silence of candle-compliant stone, amidst the memorial complaints of sailors, bruising erasure of cargo. If ever, whose shallows are the Dickens? If ever I moved, whose dome whispers how roses glow along sunsetting Deptford pinks, multi-branch cyclops showing floribundant carnation coronations, dogs with eyes the size of hollow crowns. Moved, whose black depths cradle graves, expel the living. For the Thames, I said this would not take long, but it is, would be, for the Thames. I wrote 2 unreadable ones, which were to do with trains. I was asked to do a Me Too poem. I've never written a Me Too poem, in part because one of the people whom I have a Me Too about is so absolutely fucking terrifying that I can't possibly go public. Gateway poem. We left gender at the gates of ivory, but my hair lengthened when the time slip carried me through the gates of Deerhorn. She and she spoke to me, but not as if speaking to a woman. Half-time Athena demands lemonade. Tiresias gets tired taking the penalties. She too said her supervisor scheduled her final exam revision only at his house, only in private, only down a green gravel driveway she could not see to the end of a green gravel driveway. She spoke to me, but not as if speaking to a woman. I forgot where I was from, perhaps Ireland. A copper-footed walking stick had manifested, antlered, protective, at my right hand. She too said her friend laid her across his lap, worked her like a machine. She came 5 times. He threw her off onto the floor and shouted, "And that is why you're alone and will always be alone, because you don't listen." She spoke to me, but not as if speaking to a woman. A grip and a time slip, fast, a grip. She too said little about her father, just how awful she felt not to want to sit together at the table with her family on her parents' golden wedding anniversary. She spoke to me, but not as if speaking to a woman. I missed having a mantelpiece for postcards from friends, for I was unsure of my name, though I knew my address, excelling in shared nightmare. She and she and she too, not a woman. Invaders of the bay of sleep, finding safety in intersectional dreamers. Hang out a gender to dry at the slippery gates of ivory. Beckon me back through the true gates of Dearhorn. I'm writing another book, but it's already promised to Carcanet, which I know it doesn't make a contractual bond, but there's a language of flowers which everyone used to know in Victorian, Edwardian England, or at least I imagine they used to know it. It's one of those languages that if you use it, you imagine everyone knows it, because then it makes your imagining somewhat less lonely. And there are other earlier languages of flowers which may or may not be congruent with it. I was living in a flat where everyone saw ghosts. This is true and not part of the poem. Everyone except me, and they saw ghosts of nurses and soldiers. And this ranged from the 3-year-old son of a very Christian friend to another friend from Manchester who worked for the Treasury. So eventually I began to believe there might be ghosts, and looked up the history of the place. Annoyingly, I found that a little way down the road, there had been a place where soldiers were looked after, and a little way up the road, there had been a recruiting station for soldiers, but not actually my house. And then looked up one particular recruiting officer and found that he had died in April, which was a month when most of my guests seemed to see ghosts. So I wrote a poem for him. He's buried in London, actually. Field postcard. Rondo-style text. Nothing is to be written on this side, except the date and signature of the sender. Sentences not required may be erased. If anything else is added, the postcard will be destroyed. So carry marigolds, show sorrow, hide July war and flowers at home, their code is tender. Nothing is to be written on this side except the date and signature of the sender. April he fell in flames. Lilies of the valley implied humility, poppies oblivion. Tender your papers. No letter lately wounded, no parcel well erased. Apple blossom admitted, rose follows, iris destroyed. Nothing is to be written on this side except the date and signature of the sender. Sentences not required may be erased. If anything else is added, the postcard will be destroyed. If you haven't seen examples of these field postcards, and many of you probably will have, but you can, and they did vary over time. You can see them in the Imperial War Museum website. There's some very good examples. And really, unless you sort of ticked off the boxes, it wouldn't be sent. There'd be no means of communication. I will also note that Real versus Liverpool kicked off 5 minutes ago. So, I mean, if anybody else wants to go, I'll understand. This is should be my last, my second to last poem. Well, no, as I just said, you know, second to last. Moss for Maya. A child left alone can befriend moss. Its bright green, enticing to the eye as a lemon lolly behind the teeth, makes moss seem to shine in the darkness under lizard-haunted ixora bushes and on the killing patch of concrete that disaffected workmen splashed on earth that had been alive with wet-combed roots, as if extermination were necessary for human habitation and moss an infiltrator. Moss has not tiny tongues, nor little fingers, nor flames fine as watchmakers' tools, nor an elfin semaphore system. Moss is not lickable, not glossolalia, not in the way on the way. Moss is myriad, simply many and one. Moss absorbs. For the benefit of giants, 14 kinds of Icelandic moss were exhibited under glass, including the static flicker of a moss named for its resemblance to white worms, a name mistranslatable as pale dragons. It must have been plucked from the cooling, flowed lava fields that look like nothing, yet where detail thrives. Clumps of pink carnivorous daisies, trapping zippy insect life. The life cycle of moss is momentous. Any given colony of moss could have been there since whichever chosen beginning, while changing at a rate that puts mammals' eyes to shame. Don't slip. Grab the balustrade. Don't slip. She's broken her arm. Don't scrape too much off. It's beautiful. Bleach it all off. It's a risk. Coexist. Moss exists. Our stone selves roll on different tracks, unmatchably cracked. We cling, resist, shaped our ends, whatever is, not this. Moss induces words in us because grave and new we sentence things, whereas moss carpets, respires, pulls back, is. I'm going to Inishbofin next week, and if you have time, I really recommend Inish Island Conversations, which is a multi-arts festival, and it takes place usually over 3 or 4 days on the westernmost island off the coast of Ireland, and I'm reading it partly in honour of the extraordinary referendum result, which is the other bit of news. Inishbofin 1. A stranger bringing water to a stranger. One unlocked house among all unlocked houses. A line of stone along a line of clover. Beyond a road with stone and clover edges, a looked-for line between wet sky and water seems non-existence. Large and swift, headed out, disappeared in a tilting and a pouring. How have I been so stupid and not known this? Heaven most probably is underwater, sounding with ease, increasing pressure on us. Too light for many stars, too soon for most birds. Cracks, cracks, a hidden and unvarnished corncrake. Some way ahead, Rebecca in the pink. Inishbofin 2. You do just have to listen to the boatman. Let the boatman make the decision. Inishbofin 3 for Bernard O'Donoghue. The road goes 2 ways, right and left. Obvious the bright white dust. Sure as last year and yesterday, the harbour where friends disembark without confusion for the climb towards the hall on the small hill. Nothing is interchangeable. Shop, slope, feel-proof bone called sand, variant seaweed, boundary stones. Dark-sailed and unmistakable. This man, walking from inside light to outside, fierce, eventful brain, leader through telescopic fields, yet if kindness walked with flags, he'd still be taller. Like a child, old age is not, and he is not. He has stopped, and here it starts. I very easily get lost. A voice of great sweetness and trust. Nothing is interchangeable. This exercise that hurts the heart. Red-hulled and unmistakable. Inishbofin 4. see for a bit, lovingly lifting it off. This felted skin, this roof needing resurfaced. Thank you so much.